We're going to review really quickly here how we use our calculators to evaluate for trig functions or inverse trig functions. So it's really just plug and chug. The fact though is we just want to pay really close attention to things like, are we in radians mode, are we in degrees mode, and kind of how we craft some of these expressions. So when you look at this here, like this 1a, it says go find the secant of 5 pi 7ths. The very first thing I notice is that this must be in radians mode. Our angle is in a radian measurement. So we'll head into our mode menu here, and I notice 3 rows down, or the third row, I am already in radians. So if I hit second mode, I quit. The other part of this is just secant. You know, how do I type in secant on a calculator? Well, what do I know about secant? Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So just to be very, very clear here, if we ever have to evaluate for a cosecant, we're just going to type this in as 1 divided by the sine of theta. And the reason why that makes reasonable sense is because the reciprocal of 1 over the sine of theta is sine of theta over 1, meaning that sine is the reciprocal of cosecant. So going ahead and listing these out here really quickly. You want to know your reciprocal identities. So secant's 1 over cosine, cotangent, well, that'd be a 1 over a tangent. But it just means that in your calculator, look, if I'm asking you to find the secant of 5 pi 7ths, we had better type that in as 1 over, let me try this again here. 1 over the cosine. 1 over the cosine of our very same angle. So 5 pi divided by 7. So let's check this out here. You know, 1 divided by cosine of 5. Pi keys behind my caret key divided by 7, and I'm in radians. So out to 4 places, it's negative 1.6039. So about negative 1.6039. Hey, likewise, I want to find a cotangent over here. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangents, so I'm going to rewrite this first, 1 over the tangent of 100 degrees. But I also noticed that, hey, I'm back in degrees. So that means that I got to pop this over into mode, head over into degrees, and then ask my calculator to evaluate it. 1 divided by the tangent of 100 degrees. That would give us about negative 0.1763. Groovy. So how about it? How about down here? Use a calculator to evaluate the expressions, round to 2 places, and calculator in radians. Okay, these are arc cosine, arctan, you know, tan inverse. These must represent angles, and so what we have here are our ratios. We want to work backwards towards the angle. It's just that I want to know I can ask your calculator to do this. So again, if I'm following directions, I was asked to give my angles in radians, not in degrees, and to do an arc cosine here, that's the same as this cosine inverse of negative 0.7. Let's go ahead and pull this function out on our calculator, remembering that our arc cosine or our cosine inverse is just behind cosine. So if we had second cosine of negative 0.7, or 7/10 there, we would get an angle of about 2.35 radians, so 2.35 rad. And then how about over here, you know, tan inverse of this negative 95 sevenths. Well, shoot, arctan of negative 95 sevenths. It's plug and chug, baby. We get about negative 1.50 radians, so negative 1.50 rad. Okay, so make sure you know how to go back from degrees to radians, radians to degrees, and just know that right now, you know, things like you may be leaving your calculator in radians, and later down the road you need it in degrees. Just always being on your toes for what mode you're in. Okay, cheers.